Well, welcome back to The Heat. China and the United Arab Emirates are forging ahead on projects including renewable energy, infrastructure, and people-to-people exchanges. The agreements came on Chinese President Xi Jinping's second day in Abu Dhabi. The Chinese president travels to Senegal next and ends the week at the BRICS summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. Well, let's get back to our panel right now. Qinduo, I want to start this final issue with you. We know a lot about China's involvement in Africa. We've seen lots of reporting about the projects that China has been carrying out in Africa. But what about China's involvement in the Middle East? How significant is it?
The choice of United Arab, UAE as the first stop for President Xi Jinping's trip to Africa, mostly, and of course, the BRICS summit in South Africa, shows the significance the Chinese side attaches to the country, UAE. UAE is the largest destination of Chinese export to the Arab world and the second trading partner of China. So this is very important. This is a small nation with a small population. Their import from the Chinese side is huge, but it's not for their own consumption. Obviously, there's a lot of re-export from UAE. So UAE has become somehow a trading center for the Chinese goods and services with other Arab countries in this region. So this is, it is playing a very important role. And obviously, the two countries are also looking at cooperation beyond oil and gas, which, of course, UAE is an important player to the supply of Chinese energy here. They are looking at renewable energy. They're looking at the infrastructure. They are going to build the largest Chinatown in this region. And also, if you look at the number of Chinese tourists last year, 120 million a year. This is unthinkable. This country has only like 9 million population. So this is huge.
Afshin, what did you make of the visit?
Yeah, this was very interesting because I've been watching this relationship over the past decade. And over the past decade, I've seen more and more Chinese businesses turning up in the United Arab Emirates. There are currently 4,000 Chinese businesses in the United Arab Emirates. There are 200,000 Chinese residents living in the United Arab Emirates. So there's a commercial reality driving this visit. And to Qinduo's point, the UAE has become this global trade hub, not just a regional trade hub, actually. We call it the Hong Kong of South Asia in many ways, and we've always thought of it as the Singapore of the Middle East. But increasingly, it's becoming even something of a Miami for Africa, with the number of traders from the African states that are moving into Dubai, using the Dubai International Airport's air cargo hub, the Jebel Ali ports, shipping lanes. And so I think this is a reflection of the commercial reality of the importance of the UAE as a regional hub. And I think it was very interesting that he chose to go there on his way to Africa.
And it's also strategically located, isn't it?
Strategically located as well. And also, the UAE has become geopolitically involved in the Horn of Africa, very important to China, particularly with its military base in Djibouti. So in addition to the commercial relationship, there is that geopolitical and strategic relationship that is forming as well.
Qinduo, there were a number of agreements signed while the president was in the UAE, business, financial, and trade agreements, 13 in all. What was your takeaway? What stood out for you?
Well, I think the focus right now, for this trip actually goes beyond, as I pointed out, beyond the oil and gas. This is very interesting. Obviously, from the UAE side, they are going to make the most of this relationship. For example, they are working very hard to, there's this China Arab Technology Transfer Center, mostly technology from the Chinese side. And also, they're looking at the AI, artificial intelligence technologies from the Chinese side. So they are looking at something beyond the original resources. So something into the future, the technology and also the renewable energy. So this is a very important, a new area of cooperation between the two sides. I think this is not only for UAE, but also for other Arab countries here.
David, at the end of the week, the president heads to Johannesburg, South Africa for that BRICS summit. You've covered South Africa as well. You were the correspondent in Johannesburg for the Guardian newspaper. What do you think's going to be top of the agenda during that summit?
Indeed, in fact, I think the last time the BRICS summit was held in South Africa, I was there at the time, and I think the summit will focus once again on China's relationship with Africa, which is ever expanding, and was fascinating for me to watch. On the one hand, there were some tremendous positives. I would fly into countries and there'd be a gleaming, shining new airport, and there'd be smooth roads and new buildings going up. On the other hand, often the taxi driver would complain about the Chinese laborers who were there, and there'd be very little relationship between them, and you'd also hear complaints on the ground that this Chinese infrastructure is great, but it falls apart after a few years, sort of issues of quality control, and certainly a lot of warnings that countries were sacrificing too much power to China. Right. And then the other issue was, of course, an authoritarian approach to government versus a democratic one, in a sense that Africa was as a battleground between these approaches.
Merrill, we started out the show talking about the trade dispute between China and the United States, and we're ending it off here with the BRICS summit, talking about the BRICS summit that is going to be taking place in South Africa. We talked about President Xi Jinping's visit to the United Arab Emirates and his visit to Africa as well. So while there may be this dispute with the United States, the rest of the world's moving on, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. And one of the debates we're having in the U.S. is how involved the U.S. should be in other countries, and how much we should be sort of the world's global policeman, the leader in the economy, and so forth. President Trump is trying to pull that back. It's creating a void, and China's stepping in to fill that void.
Okay, and we are going to have to leave it there. Thanks to all of you for being with us. That's it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C. Thanks for watching.